In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming weather pattern around the nation and basically everything that pertains to it. We have a pretty big tropical update today as the National Hurricane Center has issued a chance of tropical development that we're going to be diving into. There is some severe weather expected and a whole lot of rainfall for areas in the eastern half, really the eastern 2/3 of the nation, that will bring more flooding concerns, as that has been a big time unfortunate theme this summer. So let's go ahead and dive into everything. So as we take a look at the whole tropical Atlantic, we can see that we have this yellow area right here offshore of the northeastern Gulf, and then kind of the areas offshore of Florida and Georgia there. So let's go ahead and give it a good zoom, not that much, and take a look at things. And as you can see, this is for a lot of, again, Florida, the Gulf Coast there, and portions of the southeast. We currently sit at a 0% chance of development over the next 2 days, but a 20% chance over the next 7 days. And as I've been trying to kind of educate you guys on, they always tend to start out at these lower levels. Sometimes you'll see one start out at a mid or even high level risk of development, very rarely. But most of the time, we are going to see these 10, 20, 30% chances in the beginning that will either dissipate or climb from that percentage. As of now, we have no idea what this one's going to do out of those two options, but this does look very similar to Chantal, the previous tropical storm that we just had move into the southeast. But when we break down the actual movement of this, the actual area where it's expected to develop, it'll appear very different from Chantal. Although this yellow area is almost identical, it's a completely different risk. And the reason being is because we actually expect this one to mostly move westward. So we do expect an area of disturbance kind of near Florida, just offshore of the East Coast, to move in the opposite direction that Chantal did. And at the very, very, very least, if we don't see any development, we do expect quite a bit of rainfall for these areas in Florida. Storms, a lot of rainfall. That is pretty much the minimal threat that we're going to be seeing from this system. The maximum is, well, the sky's the limit, but we do expect potential for tropical depression, tropical storm status, maybe with this one. That is certainly a possibility. Everywhere is obviously at risk of that, but the main areas that I would be watching for a potential impact of a, let's say, formed tropical system would be Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle would be the main area to watch for this thing to swing through and head in. So we'll have to see what this one's going to do, and we're actually going to turn towards some model guidance to see what we're thinking. But before we do that, I do want to start including the current conditions in these videos. Obviously, I have evolved a little bit of what we're looking at primarily within the videos. I don't know if this will just be for the summertime or if we're going to carry this into the fall and winter. Let me know what you guys think with this new format. I would appreciate the feedback because, of course, you guys are what matters, and I want you guys to be satisfied with what you're seeing. So let me know if you like the old format where we just kind of worked through the weather bell model graphics, or if you do like this, more radar stuff and more global stuff that we've been looking at. Here is the current radar. Just kind of, I'll up the amount of frames here so we can see maybe the past hour or two of movement. But we do have a lot of thunderstorms around. Obviously, that's the kind of sticking out like a sore thumb for a lot of the south central, kind of deeper south Gulf areas, Ohio Valley through mid-Atlantic, and even Great Lakes through northeast. So let's break down some of these individual areas. As we're taking a look at the south central states, we could see some heavy thunderstorms moving through. Clearly a bit of a frontal boundary moving from west to east here. We could see that moving through parts of Texas and Oklahoma, with some heavier thunderstorms around for Oklahoma City areas north of there as well, and then also areas to the west and southwest of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So that's kind of swinging through, but out to the east, what we're seeing is more of a rising motion from the Gulf. So we're getting a lot more of these like tropical downpour type thunderstorms. We can see a lot of that happening for East Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and even as we head towards the southeast, we can see more of this occurring in these areas as well. We can see the flow here moving across. We see some more stagnant thunderstorm activity here for Florida. It's easy to see why we think this tropical movement is going to move like this, because clearly that's already kind of the flow that we're dealing with. As we move a little bit further northward here, I can say firsthand for southeastern Virginia and surrounding areas that we have very stagnant thunderstorms around for these northern, southeast, southern, mid-Atlantic states. These thunderstorms are almost not even moving, and they are bringing inches of rainfall for the areas that they are hitting. We're talking 2, 3, 4 inches of rainfall within an hour or two. Certainly a big time flooding risk for a lot of these areas. As we move even further northward, we could see more of these linear types of thunderstorms that are just kind of moving across the screen here for a lot of different states. Some of them back here for the UP of Michigan, areas of Wisconsin. A lot of it for the Midwest and Ohio Valley here, states like Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee as well. And they will be moving into New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia likely over the coming hours. We even have some thunderstorms around for the Northeast here, like northeastern Pennsylvania, areas of New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. So many different areas, I guess, is the main theme here in the eastern states dealing with these sporadic thunderstorms. Obviously, some differences between them, but the main similarity here is that most every state in the east is seeing a threat of thunderstorms today, so a very, very stormy day overall. Now, as we kind of just dive into some of the model guidance, here's the past 3 days of temperatures. Obviously, we've dealt with some warmer conditions out west overall. Typically, this would be a positive PNA, which would encourage cooler temperatures into the east. But that goes not just for the United States, but really Canada as well. And we see cooler anomalies for Western Canada, also Western Mexico. And I think that's why we're seeing much more of a neutral PNA type pattern setup where we have some cooler conditions for the South Central states, some of the deeper Southeast, a little bit warmer for the Ohio Valley and Northeast here, also for the North Central and Central Plains there, but maybe more below normal temperatures here for parts of the upper Midwest. So pretty neutral, probably leaning warmer in the eastern 2/3. But there is definitely some cooler anomalies in there. And really, for the past 3 days, we are closer to normal here than what we've dealt with earlier on in the summer. Most areas being within 5 degrees of what's normal. So not a huge departure in any given direction. Let's go ahead and move into some of this storminess, though. And as you can see, this model reflects pretty accurately what we've been seeing on the current radar guidance, which is just a lot of thunderstorms all over the place. We're going to be watching these daily storms, but again, I want you to pay attention to this area of storms set up over the southeast and watch it kind of flow in like this. We're going to be watching for any signs of development here on this European model. Obviously, not to toot my own horn, if you guys do watch daily, I've been talking about for probably a week that this area is an area to watch, and that has been a very accurate projection at this point because we do see a threat popping up here. So I'm happy to be accurate. But, you know, that's a double-edged sword because at the same time, it's not good stuff for these areas. But, you know, you want to be accurate, so it's tough. As we move towards tomorrow afternoon, we see some similar conditions, maybe even stormier, but for a smaller area, slightly smaller area. We see still the South Central, all the deep South, some of the lower Midwest into the Ohio Valley, and then up and down the eastern states. These thunderstorms are, again, pretty rampant throughout a lot of different areas in here. We do see continued activity across these areas. Notice how Florida is dealing with some pretty deep saturation of thunderstorms. Again, that's going to be a threat regardless of if this develops or not. As we move towards Monday, because remember, days 1 through 2, or basically the next 2 days, there is a 0% chance of development. This is primarily a days 2 through 7 threat. So this is really when we're needing to start really watching it. We do see a bit of what looks like a funnel boundary moving from the northeast all the way down to the south central states. So we see thunderstorms along that area, pretty linear from Texas to Maine and everywhere in between. Still some activity along the southeast area as well. Thunderstorms pretty rampant. So that activity looks to continue. Tuesday on the 15th, we still see a lot of our potential tropical activity is over top of Florida. It's harder for it to develop over land than it is over the ocean, and I think that's maybe an understatement. It's significantly harder. So this needs to move over open water if it's going to develop for the most part. And as it slowly moves westward, we will see if this model currently shows it developing or not. A couple interesting things happening. We still have this area over the east, now moving more and more southeast where we're dealing with activity. But we do see the northern Rockies, northern plains, upper Midwest still dealing with some activity in here pretty consistently. So definitely something to keep our eyes on. As we move towards Wednesday here on the 16th, we definitely start to see more activity over that kind of northeastern Gulf area. And at this point is going to be where I would say we need to start watching it. This is day 4 from right now. And this is when we can start to see development for the most part. The southeast still deeply saturated with thunderstorms. We still see the system moving across the kind of plains and upper Midwest, bringing thunderstorms. Still just a really, really stormy pattern in general would be a good way to put it. As we keep moving on towards Thursday here on the 17th, what we're seeing is thunderstorms up and down this eastern area. A little bit of a low there in eastern Canada. This is kind of dragging along a more cold front type feature. We also are seeing some lower pressure trying to get going in this northeastern Gulf area. I don't know if we're going to see development necessarily on this model. We didn't with Chantel. I'll point that out as well. So these models are certainly not perfect, but it would mean something if we did see the development on this model as opposed to not seeing it. But the chances are at their peak probably Thursday, Friday, because by Friday we see the lower pressure, but a lot of this is reaching that area, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida Panhandle. And again, once it moves over to land, we're pretty much done. Again, some lower pressure in here. We'll have to see what happens. And even by, well, daily emojis there out of nowhere. Even by this point, Friday the 18th, we see up and down that eastern area, thunderstorms are pretty abundant. Not as abundant, but certainly prevalent. Saturday on the 19th, it does look like we might be slowing down in this area. There's still a chance of development here, but I think the window will be closing around this time. Maybe, if anything, we're going to see another area of potential development. We do have some stronger areas of thunderstorms in here, which certainly could develop. We also see a cluster here offshore of maybe the Florida Keys directly to the west of them. So a couple of areas to watch by this point. I don't even think we can rule out that there might not be another threat or two here during the month of July for this area because the waters are warm. It's a classic area for this time of year for tropical development. And we're seeing very, very consistent activity just sitting over this area day after day on the models. That's all a recipe for potential development in there. And again, the key word is potential. The main thing I'm calling for here is to see areas of potential and to see the National Hurricane Center acknowledging that and posting those percentage outlooks. Just because we have those chances doesn't mean that any of them will develop into anything. And it also doesn't mean, what I just said doesn't mean that we won't see all of them develop or anything in between. So it's mostly just a seeing the chance type of thing. We do see a pretty big cluster of thunderstorms here by this Saturday timeframe for the upper Midwest, worth noting. Sunday on the 20th, it doesn't move too far. We see it maybe expand into some of the Great Lakes, but a pretty similar look. Again, areas of some lower pressure and potential disturbance still around for the areas offshore of the southeast and in the north central Gulf. Monday on the 21st, the Gulf is slowing down. Even the southeast is as well. We have, again, thunderstorms around, but no real development to discuss. And still some isolated to scattered thunderstorms here in the southeast. The more consistent precipitation, though, will be for this upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley area for Monday on the 21st, it appears. As we move this forward, once again, Tuesday on the 22nd, a lot more of it for the Northeast and Midwest and Ohio Valley. Still thunderstorms around for these areas. Looking towards Wednesday on the 23rd, we get some explosion of thunderstorms here in the plains and Midwest. Much more richly saturated there. Also, a lot of the kind of like southeast area here dealing with this. Moving towards Thursday on the 24th. Now we're seeing, again, the southeast be the area to focus on for precipitation. The deep south, mid-Atlantic and southeast, even Ohio Valley here. Definitely seeing a lot of thunderstorms on this model run. This is beyond 10 days, so make sure to take it with a grain of salt. We still see what I would call the potential for tropical development around even by Thursday the 24th. Maybe it's even surged back up again as this frontal boundary moves through Friday the 25th. We have somewhat of a frontal boundary in here. This is another thing that can encourage tropical development. They like to ride along these frontal boundaries, develop and kind of shoot along that same track. Definitely something to watch. Again, we have a low here over the upper Midwest and a bit of a cold front. Certainly going to bring a severe weather chance with it if it does occur. Heavy rainfall at the very least for a lot of these areas. And then by Saturday on the 26th, this one's even moving down further towards the east and southeast here. So we go on Saturday the 26th. And for that next day on Sunday, we don't get past the morning because this is the 12Z model run. So this is 8 a.m. on Sunday. But it's pretty evident that we have a lot of activity here along the Gulf Coast, southeast coast, even for portions of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast here, as this low is sitting right there. Going to be another stormy day for these areas. Another thing to note, although this is at the very end of the model run, we have a massive ridge in the west and actually a really, really intense trough for this time of year in the east. This might bring, some mid-lower 80s, maybe even upper 70s if we were to see an event like this, which I think would be, no pun intended, warmly welcomed by a lot of you, including myself. This time of year, even a cooler pattern is still plenty warm to enjoy the outdoors, but it's, plenty cool to enjoy the outdoors, as we've learned with this crazy heat that we've seen at points, especially during June. Looking at the total precipitation, we have seen this southwest kind of four corner states, south central states slow down a little bit. There still is a lot of precipitation expected, so please continue to pay attention. You guys have just seen a ton of precipitation and flooding, and the soil cannot handle a lot of precipitation. These storms this time of year are very hard to predict, at least with precision. So if anything major hits an area that is susceptible to flooding or has just had a ton of it, this could occur very similarly again. So it could become very dangerous once again. I think Colorado and New Mexico still look very dangerous as far as the amount of precipitation, especially with all of that elevation, the valleys, the river valleys, all that could set up for something bad. But this isn't looking as bad as it has over the last few days. So I guess we're moving in the right direction, but still not out of the water by any means. Looking at this entire north central and eastern states area, we are expecting a lot of precipitation, but the primary areas with the most of it will be this kind of southeast area here, and then also the upper Midwest and Great Lakes area. Looking at the anomalies, it kind of reflects that. We still expect above average precipitation throughout a lot of the central states, kind of with the exception of the very middle of the central states like Nebraska, Kansas, eastern Colorado. But for New Mexico, Texas, it's still a bit above average. Oklahoma, also Montana there in the above average column. And then we get this area here for the Midwest and Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, definitely above average. And then the southeast area and then up into the Mid-Atlantic, certainly above average as well. So flooding risks probably going to persist here over the next couple of weeks. But hopefully we start to see some improvements and see this kind of ease up a little bit would be really, really good at this point. And finally, let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center outlooks. Here's for today on Saturday, July 12th. We see in the lighter green a general thunderstorm risk, where we expect general thunderstorms, but not severe weather necessarily. But very, very unpredictable this time of year. For instance, northeastern North Carolina is in the general thunderstorm risk area. They just had a major storm roll through, bring multiple severe thunderstorm warnings there. I think it was near, Gatesville, to the west of Elizabeth City. That's kind of close to my neck of the woods, so I'm trying to get specific here. But the example and the lesson here is that they are in the general thunderstorm risk where no severe weather is expected. They saw a severe thunderstorm. So it does happen. Please pay attention to any thunderstorms around. Always be paying attention to the radar. The summer is particularly tough to predict where thunderstorms will or won't really develop. The darker green area, which is a really random looking shape, it's all over the place, is your level 1 marginal risk, where we do expect isolated severe weather. And then that yellow region for the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Great Lakes is your level 2 slight risk, where we expect more scattered about severe weather to occur. For day 2, which will be tomorrow on Sunday the 13th, we see 3 general thunderstorm risk areas and 2 marginal risks as well, where bad thunderstorms could be occurring. And then day 3, finally here on Monday the 14th, very large general thunderstorm risk area with a marginal up there in the north central states. It's important to note that a day that looks like this, I would not be surprised to see another area of marginal risk set up. This is day 3, so there's a lot of time for some upgrades. This is probably going to change, but we do show this daily, so be sure to tune in with us. Speaking of that, we upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.